If there was one concern for Hillary Clinton in her quest to become president of the United States, it was whether or not Vice President Joe Biden would throw his hat into the ring. And we found out this week that that will not happen, as the vice president has dropped out even before he jumped in. And back with us is our panel, John, Bill, and Sebastian, to discuss what it all means. Biden's out, so it seems from the outside looking in that Hillary Clinton has a clear shot from here on in.
I have a little bit of a wrench to throw in.
Okay, do so.
He did not say he would never run. He said he is not putting his head into the ring.
Oh,
and he theoretically could resurface at some time.
So you mean a draft Biden?
There could be
at the convention?
Could even happen before the convention.
You think so?
It's possible. The point is that you have to figure, what was the strategy of Biden the other day when he gave his speech? His speech could have been given if he was running or not running. True. It would have been absolutely the same speech. So there was a lot of crafting.
I don't think he has really decided yet, but let's take a look at the man himself. This is Joe Biden this week discussing his decision not to run.
As my family and I have worked through the grieving process, I've said all along what I've said time and again to others, that it may very well be that that process, by the time we get through it, closes the window on mounting a realistic campaign for president, that it might close. I've concluded.
Now, Professor Rosenberg, you bring up a very good point. Biden doesn't strike me as the guy who likes to ride off into the sunset, even at the age of 72.
The problem for him is that by giving that speech, he was in effect making himself a lame duck politician.
Exactly, and so no politician likes that. They like to be relevant till the very end.
Right.
Okay, so if I understand you correctly, and let me throw this out to the panel, it's not beyond the realm of the possible, even with Hillary Clinton's, the juggernaut that is Hillary Clinton and all the money she has, for maybe some elements, even at the convention, to say we're still not comfortable with her, maybe Biden's the person.
Well, but I think that you're going to see her strength growing sort of incrementally in the next few months, and that you'll see in the early primaries when she wins, as I think will happen, that more and more people kind of line up behind her, the endorsements, the money, and it starts to seem more and more inevitable. What's really important for Hillary Clinton is that more people become comfortable with her, and I think she has appeared more approachable, more friendly, and she certainly looked very strong on the Benghazi panel the other day. I think more people will be attracted to respect her, and this kind of narrative that Hillary Clinton is a shady character or something is going to fade, and people will sort of wake up from the spell that's been cast. And
Sebastian Aulich, you travel extensively around the world. When people look at the process of selecting a president in the United States, and somebody like Joe Biden, who has tremendous international chops, as it were, is that a concern, or do they feel comfortable with Hillary Clinton?
I think it's a huge concern.
It is.
I obviously believe that in terms of foreign policy, Joe Biden would have been a lot better than Hillary Clinton.
Really?
Now, just to comment on his speech, I think he took a position of an insurance policy at this point. So maybe he knows something that other people don't know yet, that her campaign may collapse at one point. Maybe there are going to be some criminal charges. So he stands right now on his side waiting what's going to happen. Like, obviously he's 70-something, but he's full of energy. So I can't really see him retiring at one point. So maybe.
Well, I see in Biden someone who really connects, as opposed to Hillary, who I don't see connecting.
See, the point is that if you take a look at both the Republican and the Democratic parties, it's sometimes easier to win the primaries than it is to win the presidency. So when you take a look, Hillary Clinton, if you take a look at the endorsements she has, there's been an analysis done of congressmen, senators, and governors, and how many points she scores that way. She is by far and away over every Democrat, including Bernie Sanders. She dwarfs him. Bernie Sanders, I believe, has 2 congressional endorsements, even though he has 35% of the Democratic Party. The idea, though, is that Mitt Romney had the same problem.
Right.
He was running, but he had to keep running more to the right so he could get the nomination, so he could come back to the middle.
And the person dragging her to the right is to the left is Bernie Sanders,
That's
obviously.
Right.
And I don't know if we can discount him initially, at least in the first couple of primaries. I think as it swings through the South, it might be a different story because of his age and ethnicity and so on and so forth. But Bernie, what is your take on Bernie Sanders?
Well, I mean, I think he has done a very good job of putting his agenda,
And
forward
it seems
for
to be
discussion.
connecting for a lot of people.
And I think it has forced Hillary Clinton to articulate her views on, the oil pipeline, her approaches to racial issues, her positions on economic inequality. She looks more left wing as a result of having to answer Sanders.
We also have the fact that by Biden not entering the race now, he has given enormous support, in a sense, inadvertently or on purpose, to Hillary Clinton.
Oh, absolutely right.
It really harms Bernie Sanders' chances. But ultimately, a presidential race is a marathon. You got to realize there's not even one vote being cast until next January.
Right.
Okay, so a lot can happen. And the issue is, are people going to endear themselves to Hillary Clinton over time? Right now, she is winning in the Democratic primary, but not so clear in the Independent and Republican parties' voters. If you take a look at the vote just before, in the polls, the matchups, just before Biden announced that he wasn't going to run, Biden more comfortably beat all the Republicans.
Yes.
Hillary Clinton was either tied or losing to the top Republicans.
No, you make a very good point.
So the question is, how do you make the judge of who should be the nominee versus who should really be the one in November?
Also happened this week, Jim Webb dropped out, as did Lincoln Chafee, so now we're down to 3 candidates. O'Malley is still in the race.
Right.
For whatever reason, I don't know, he wasn't well received. Maybe he is looking for the vice presidential nomination somewhere down the road. But really, does this boil down to they'll fade away and eventually she'll outrun Bernie Sanders, to use your analogy, and it's Hillary? I mean, is this a done deal at this point as far as the nomination?
The question is, are people at the end of the day going to vote for Hillary Clinton, if she is the nominee, versus the Republican? Now, the Republican Party is right now one bit of confusion.
Yes.
Okay? You have Donald Trump, you have
Ben
Carson, and you have Carly Fiorina. 3 outsiders with no government experience at all. And all 3 of them say things that are often interpreted by fact checkers as not being real reasonable. So in those types of matchups, Hillary Clinton probably does pretty well. But if Jeb Bush ends up winning the nomination because
Rubio.
the others explode, or Rubio, then that changes the dynamics.
Well, we
all
also
over
saw that
again.
Jeb Bush struggling this week. He's cut his staff salary by 40%.
Yeah, but that's not so surprising, because why should he maintain it right now when he doesn't really?
Well,
need
you
it?
brought up the Republicans, so let's ask Sebastian, and then we'll wrap it up with you, Professor. But let me ask you, the Republican debate, the second or third one, I can't keep track of them, is next week.
Yes.
Is third one, is that significant at all? Are people yet paying attention, or should we see?
Well, the 2 previous debates, they got like 20 million viewers each, so it's extremely significant, especially for those networks, because they're making a lot of money on the commercials. But no, for the race, yes, I think Carly Fiorina definitely will go up. Rubio will go up because they're both great debaters. Trump probably will stay flat or maybe go a little bit lower. Ben Carson, he didn't do so well in the second debate. I thought he was very
But I saw one poll where he's leading, and that's a surprise, isn't it?
I don't know. Yeah, I really think the Republicans, their strongest candidate, in my view, is Rubio, and he's one who could be hard for Hillary Clinton to beat. But if I could just come back to her foreign policy,
You got 30 seconds.
I was very interested in that comment, because I actually think the way that Hillary Clinton wins independents and maybe some more moderate Republicans is to look strong on foreign policy.
Right.
And I think that she can do that. I mean, she was really one of the people behind the decision to go after Osama bin Laden. I think that if Hillary Clinton had been president in the last 8 years, Assad would have been gone.
All right, so let's leave it here. We thank you very much. When we come back to Fresh Outlook, the world's largest automaker with egg on its face and dealing with another possibly public relations nightmare. We'll be right back.